As I had mentioned before, the number of immigrants to our country had grown. And when that happened, the problem of work allocation to those newly immigrated naturally arose. The employment rate was very important, just like with any other country. This was because if we wished to increase the nation's productivity, then each and every citizen needed to work diligently. If the employment rate was good, then consumer spending would naturally rise, and the economy would improve as well. On the other hand, if it was bad, then the economy would deteriorate, and crime would naturally increase. It was the role of the national leadership to properly manage the task, but obviously, this was exceedingly difficult. There were individual differences in the abilities of the immigrants we accepted, and there was a limit to the amount of unskilled labor that could be assigned to anyone. Our country was still in development, and the onrush of construction work in various locations had kept us afloat. But even that was drawing to a close, and now the question of what do we do from here was in the air. Skilled laborers had no problems. If you were an experienced craftsman or someone with enough personal talent to earn a living, then it was an easy question to answer. The problem was those who lacked the knowledge and means to make money. If you were a farmer, then we could grant you farmland. If you were a craftsman, then we could introduce you to a workshop. If you were an adventurer, then the labyrinth was the perfect place, and if you were an actor, then you could be hired by theaters. Still, what about people who did not possess any such talents? The solution I came up with was to establish an education center. At the time of immigration, they'd be asked what they could do, and based on their answer, they would be taught accordingly. The education center would serve that purpose, and it was going to be operated by the military under Benimaru. The number of immigrants continues to grow, and there were a lot of people applying for the military. Whether or not they'd be useful is another issue, but at the very least, I believe they could manage being assigned to domestic security. We've been trying to solve the immigration problem, yet it seemed that there were even more people coming in. If you join the army, you can earn a living. You can also learn skills for free and even get a job. This was the rumor being spread around. As a result, the number of people joining the military gradually increased, which not only included ordinary immigrants, but adventurers and mercenaries alike. Well, as long as our country was responsible for the defense of the Western nations, building up our armed forces was a crucial task. For that reason, there were no difficulties for now. While minor complications did arise, those had been at a level that could be resolved within the military. The bigger problem was that war with the Empire was becoming a reality. Obviously, there was no way we could send people who had just been enlisted the day before into combat, so we were forced to reorganize our forces. And so, I had ordered Benimaru to submit a proposal for consolidating our military. He brought forth a single sheet of paper and placed it on the table. This is the new organizational structure that I've come up with. Some of the personnel changes are a little bold, but I think this will work. Benimaru held military command authority, whereas supreme command authority, which included the right to appoint individuals into positions, rested with me. It was a little complicated. Originally, military command authority was included in supreme command authority. Now, military command was separated and given to Benimaru. This was due to my belief that an amateur like myself shouldn't interfere with the command of the military. Therefore, Benimaru was entrusted with all matters related to the military. With this setup, Benimaru's orders took precedence over mine within the army. However, strategic command was a different story. I had the power to designate the upper echelon of the military, or to make the decision to end any war we were currently engaged in. Benimaru was free to nominate anyone below the rank of general, but the establishment of corps, the appointment of generals, was left to my discretion. He still needed a confirmation from me on whether or not the organization chart that he drew up was acceptable. If you're okay with it, then I don't have any objections. Even if I didn't plan on complaining, there might be some things I wanted to say. After all, I would be the one responsible if something went wrong, as long as I had the authority to make appointments. Nonetheless, we had already debated numerous times regarding the new organizational structure. I wasn't going to complain or anything. It was already too late for that. And the personnel I kept pushing for until the very end was 1st Corps Commander Gobta. I wasn't too convinced when I first heard about the idea of designating Gobta as a general, but now I think he'll be a good fit. As you can see from Benimaru's reply, there were pros and cons to having Gobta become a general. Indeed, the thought of giving that idiot, Gobta, responsibilities of a leader was worrisome. It was only natural that Benimaru and his staff were anxious, since the lives of Gobta's subordinates would be entrusted to his judgment. Given that he was someone who often slept during meetings, it wasn't like I didn't have any reservations, either. That said, I also knew very well of the fact that Gobta had been secretly undergoing special training, and that he was trying his best because he wanted to protect this country. Right. He's a man that pulls through when it counts, I said. Although, when it doesn't, he does absolutely nothing. But, well, Gobta's men trusted him a lot, and he was also quite good at looking out for them. I had faith in Gobta. He's one of the 4 heavenly kings, so he will never betray your expectations, Shion declared. That's right. And we will send Tensura as an inspector so she can make up for any shortcomings, just in case, Diablo added. The two of them both supported Gobta as their co-member in the Four Heavenly Kings. When you put it that way, even I can't say no, as the head of the Four Heavenly Kings, Benimaru added with a bitter smile. He must have acknowledged Gobta. Diablo is certainly correct, he then added. If anything happens, we can support him. Let's give him the job. It'll be okay. He may not look it, but his heart is in the right place. Thus, Benimaru and I decided to make Gobta general. I took a closer look at the organizational structure in order to review the other corps leaders beside Gobta. There was a total of 3 new corps to be established under Benimaru's direct command. The aforementioned first corps, with Gobta assigned as commander and Hakiru as the military advisor, would have the following soldiers. 100 goblin riders. Each member had grown to the level of rank A- and possessed the competence to be a centurion. 12,000 green numbers. The 4,000 initial men became senior soldiers and would take command of the 8,000 newly hired junior soldiers. They would work in teams of 3. The number of troops had increased significantly over the past year, but most of them were monsters from the Great Jura Forest. As a result, they were able to operate without any major problems. Although the junior soldiers were only rank C to D, the senior soldiers had grown to the equivalent of rank B. It seemed like we could expect them to be a considerable force. Following that was the second corps. Gabil became the commander for this one. This second corps, however, was currently active in various places as a construction unit. In wartime, it would be recalled and become Tempest's main force. The soldiers under Gabil's command were 2,000 yellow numbers. They were high orc warriors who followed Gabil from the start. Their individual strength was considerably high at rank B+, allowing them to create an iron wall defense by uniting with Gabil. Furthermore, they also took the role of platoon leaders that commanded the new troops. 35,000 orange numbers. The newer high orcs that had joined as enlisted soldiers. They were a unit around C rank in strength, but only 15,000 veterans would be involved in combat. The remaining 20,000 would serve as logistical support or military engineers. And lastly, we had the third corps. The aerial cavalry unit was finally being put into action as a secret weapon. The commander of this particular corps was Gabil, its original founder. The soldiers under his command were 100 Hiryu. They were the most powerful unit within Tempest. Each individual bore the strength of rank A-, was capable of flying, and had a high command ability. Some were able to reach rank A, and had the skilled dragon body that could be used as their trump card. 3,000 blue numbers. These were lizardmen warriors who volunteered to participate because they wanted to be Gabil's subordinates. The unit was established with them as its members, and their combat prowess was equivalent to rank C+. But they weren't just ordinary foot soldiers. Their distinguishing feature was that they fought while riding wyverns. Their unit had the best striking power, coupled with air superiority. Be that as it may, the current number of wyverns we had at our disposal was only 300, so we couldn't assign one to everybody. Most were relegated to raising and supporting wyverns, and it looked like it would be a while before they could participate in combat. Even then, you shouldn't underestimate them. Wyverns were a subspecies of lesser dragons, a B+ rank monster. While Gabil had succeeded in capturing and nurturing them, their goal for now was to increase the population. If they could assign a wyvern to everyone, then the blue numbers could display their true value. These were the 3 corps under Benimaru's direct control. So, the second corps is under Gabil, and the third corps is under Gabil. Looks like there aren't any problems, I said. Well, I've considered a lot of various options, but I think this is the safest bet, Benimaru assured me. Gabil was, needless to say, a reliable general. I also didn't see any issues with Gabil either. He definitely tended to get easily carried away, but even then, he was good in a fight. His performance in mock battles was excellent, and he was at the point where Benimaru recognized him as a rival. His strategic thinking was a bit on the weaker side, but his tactical decisions more than made up for that shortcoming. He treated his subordinates well and knew when to retreat. He was, without a doubt, a talented person that could be trusted as a general. As for these, they're the same as before. Benimaru brought out a different piece of paper. 3 units were listed there. Benimaru's personal bodyguards, Kurenai, was composed of 300 men. Led by rank A Gobta, it was an elite unit full of fierce fighters, all ranked A- and above. They also currently served as the general's staff. It was only after I saw them in combat training, but I thought the Gobta and the others were evenly matched with someone like Jelmid, who had once been a high-level Magin, if not stronger. If we took proficiency into consideration, there were some members of the squad that were equal to rank A. Some of them could even defeat a Holy Knight one-on-one, so calculating the overall strength of this unit was complicated. The criteria for a monster's strength were almost always decided by the amount of Magi kills. Since monsters were born strong, they had no concept of proficiency. However, in addition to their innate physical power, our country's monsters had undergone military training. It seemed that this training helped them acquire even more combat strength. I didn't think I was overestimating them, even if you considered them out of place or above the normal criteria. In the first place, if we just looked at the anomaly hacker, it was enough to prove that I was right. The people of this unit were fierce soldiers who had all endured Hakuru's hellish training. They were extraordinarily well trained. Second on that list was the intelligence unit, Dark Shadow, that Souei ran. It consisted of at least 100 men. There were many mysteries surrounding this group, and as they were under Souei's complete control, few knew of its existence. But as far as I know, they were considerably strong. Saka and her 4 subordinates, who were the commanding officers, were rank A. Several of them were even more dangerous. Glenda was part of this corps, but there were a couple of special A rank fighters as well. In fact, Tensura managed to recruit a few talented individuals via plea bargains, and they were taken in by Souei. There were Gerard, the leader of the mercenary group Apostles of Vert, and Ain, a spirit wielder who had apparently served under him. Both of them were over A rank and were now active as excellent intelligence agents. I had once joked that it was like a special agency for troublemakers, but now it was looking exactly like that. Souei claimed that we couldn't expect much combat ability from this team, but I didn't believe it. I felt that they would be perfect at assassinations. I mean, the group possessed numerous people that were over rank A, so I wanted to ask him what nonsense he was talking about. I wondered what Souei wished to achieve. Rumors that they were a frightening unit was, in a way, unavoidable. Finally, there was the Yomigaeri, who were under Shion. They totaled 100 men. The quirk of this group was that they weren't easy to kill, stubbornly so. They reportedly received incredibly severe training that utilized their terrifying regeneration abilities, and became as strong as rank B+. Considering the fact that they were originally rank C, their growth was the highest. They performed well in the battle against the Holy Knight Order, and some of them might even break through their ceiling and reach rank A.